Welcome to the Instigators Hockey Show. I'm Paulie D.
There it is, right there.
He's Chris Kotsopoulos. Look at these shirts. Look at these shirts. Chris, show your shirt.
Right there, people.
Look at
that. Yes, we can get them for large people. Not skin tight Guidos like my boy Paulie here.
Oh my God. This guy. He's got jokes. He's always got jokes.
Yeah, I do.
So if
I also got my black and tan Yingling out there, but I'm going to have some Guinness too. So, cheers! Oh, and by the way, congratulations to all the winners in the playoffs. Yes, that's you, Rangers.
We're going to talk everything hockey, no holds barred. Did I mention that that's Chris Kotsopoulos?
Oh,
he might know a thing or two about the game. But I want to just thank everyone for joining us. You know, it's always a pleasure to bring you the program and talk everything hockey. And no candy coated here. We don't candy ass code anything. We say it the way it is, and that's why we're called the Instigators Hockey Show.
Is there a world championship going on that maybe Ovechkin and Crosby can join?
The Hershey Squirts?
Well, you know, to get that chocolate gold medal or something like that. Ovechkin knows a lot about more than Crosby does. That's for sure.
The chocolate gold medal, yeah. Well, we'll talk about that maybe in a little while. More importantly, we're covering the NHL. Everything New York Rangers hockey and everything around the league.
And I got to get my Toronto Maple Leaf take going on here. My hometown people have been bugging the shit out of me about it, Paul, so I got to talk about it.
I didn't open the chat room. Shame on me.
That's all right.
So I'm doing that right now. All right. So, Chris, we got a lot to do, man. You know, wow. The one thing I will say is that my bracket.
Oh, boy.
Are perfect.
I'm going under the table.
Are perfect right now. I am 100 for 100 here. So,
what is it? DraftKings and all them stupid bets. Come to PaulieDees.com. He'll give you
right. So
for a slight fee.
Yeah.
Well, listen. Let me interrupt you. Okay, I'm 6 of 8. I admit it. You know, I blew it on a couple, and you're perfect.
I'm 8 for 8.
Wow. So who's the ex-player
here? But anyway, listen. More importantly, you know, we're going to do a couple small topics around the league. We'll talk about, you know, some of the basic things, and then we'll get into all the playoff action. I will say, and we'll talk about the officiating, but I will say that the teams that are supposed to be winning are winning. So with that, we'll move into some of the quick topics. I found it interesting today. It just came out today that Peter DeBoer was fired from Las Vegas. Cots usually, I mean, as an ex-player, usually when the coach gets fired, I mean, DeBoer was there, what, 2 seasons? How long has he been there?
Yeah, I think he's been there a couple seasons. Listen, they came into the league on fire, you know, with George McPhee running the show and going to going very far in the first year. Like, I think, did they go to the finals or something like that first year?
Yeah.
You know, and everybody, you know, things are going great. People are loving the fact that you have a franchise in Vegas, which I'd been saying for like 30, 40 years. But something's gone wrong there. And I'm not going to blame it all on management. I'm not going to blame it all on coaches, and I'm not going to blame it all on players. I think it's a combination of everything there. You know, you spent a lot of money to bring in some free agents and make some trades over the years. Then you went through the Jack Eichel thing, and I think, the question is still there on Jack Eichel, whether he is that like top 10 superstar, top 5 superstar. But I think with all the machinations that they've had over the last couple of years with coaching changes, management changes and all that. I think it's kind of disrupted the flow of that team, Paulie. And they kind of went from like one of the top dogs in the West to basically a bottom feeder, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And coaches always go first before management does, and that's the way it goes.
So I don't think they named a coach yet, did they?
No, it's too sudden. But another team did already.
Yes, we're going to go there. The New York Islanders earlier this week with Lou Lamoriello, who Chris and I have spoken about for a long time, probably one of the best GMs in all of sports, I would think. Especially the man has done amazing things, especially with the New Jersey Devils. But really kind of scratched my head. The Islanders, he let go of Barry Trotz. And, Trotz is a little bit more of an old school coach, very disciplined type, likes to play a little bit more on the defensive side of the puck. But, pedigree there, obviously won with the Capitals and just really surprised with that, Kotz. Really surprised.
Well, I'm mildly surprised. I'm not totally surprised because if you take a look at Lou Lamoriello's history, okay, the 3 Stanley Cups he won in New Jersey. I do remember Larry Robinson winning a Stanley Cup there, one of the all-time great defensemen in the NHL, coaching them to a Stanley Cup, and a year and a half later, he was fired.
Yeah.
Guess who fired him? Well, the Islanders didn't perform up to their standards that they left last season with, where we were 1 goal away from dethroning Tampa Bay. So everybody's thinking they're going to come into this season, all guns a-blazing and all that. And they basically started the season like shit, came on at the end of the year. Now, there's a lot of things involved here, though, with the Islanders. A lot of mismanagement outside the organization because the late development of their new arena cost them 13 games on the road to start the season, Paul. I don't think I've ever heard of any team starting 13 games on the road. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Any sport that plays an 82-game schedule or more.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of hurt them. And then you had injuries to their captain, Lee, and Matt Barzal didn't have a good year. So, he basically had a horseshit year, call it what it is, for a guy that's supposed to be a young superstar, upcoming star. Listen, I'm going to leave it at this with the Islanders, okay? Anything Lou Lamoriello does, I will hold my judgment until I see what happens next year because he seems to press the right buttons everywhere, okay?
Right.
He did it in Toronto. Whether the Leafs got past the hump or not, you got to remember he's been out of Toronto for a few years. When he was managing that team there, he got them from a cap situation to at least a playoff team, and then he left. So I'll reserve my judgment to see how the Islanders do next year because Lou to me is still one of the best GMs in all pro sports.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So it'll be interesting, but they did name. They named.
I played against him.
Yeah.
I don't remember where. He was in Quebec, Nordique, or Red Wing, one of the two.
He was assistant under Trotz, right?
He's been with Trotz at least, I think, for 10 or 11, 12 years, something like that.
So,
he was also one of the first to wear, when he played, I do remember wearing a eye shield because he had he injured his eye back in the day. So we'll see how he does. We'll see what he thinks. But again, same time, same channel next year. We'll be. I'll give you my answer on Lou's move.
Who's getting inducted into the New York State Hall of Fame? Barry. Barry's saying, is it Lou Lamoriello? We'll see him this coming Sunday when he's inducted into the New York State Hockey Hall of Fame in Albany. Barry's here as always. Barry.
Listen, Lou's got the resume. College, pros, whatever, USA hockey, you name it. He's got the resume for it also.
So Barry's telling me, yeah, Barry's a great statistician, and he's got a lot of information. So I trust it always.
Did he get his shirt yet?
He didn't, and I was thinking about that. So I'm gonna do this right now.
Are you like 0 for 50 with this now, or what?
So listen, this is exactly what I'm gonna do. I'm actually gonna get up from where I am right now. I'm gonna go get the shirt. I'm gonna hold it up, and I'm gonna put it at the door. Okay, and I'm gonna do that right now.
While you're at it, get me a beer, will you?
Yeah. So Barry, I don't know, man. My brain is I've been real busy, but I'm getting you your shirt. I promise you. Just like this. Just like this.
There you go, Barry.
So I'm going to get up in a minute and do that. I promise you before the show ends, I'm going to do that. All right. Let's, we can do this now. You can take your lumps now or we can wait. It's up to you.
Well, it's up to you. What do you want to do? What do you want to fight about now? Like, let's talk about the officiating, or let's talk.
Let's go officiating first. Let's go officiating first. Chris Kotze, one of the things I have to say, and I know hockey fans, and I've been part of hockey, and obviously you played, and there's an aspect that I want you to really talk about. We talked a few times over the phone the last couple of days about it. I think it's really important. But let me open up with this. I have to tell you, for the first time in a very long time watching this game, many, many years, been around it, seen it, all kinds of stuff. I think this year the officiating is so inconsistent and so game-bearing, looking almost at times where the officiating is trying to help determine an outcome. And it's almost disturbing. It's really scary to see this happen. There's times I remember, oh, that's a shit call. I can't believe you didn't make that call. I remember those years. And there's every year you're going to have that because there's the element of human nature. And I get that. This year, the first round has really scared me inside of the officiating, if I'm being honest. I think a lot of awful calls. I think a lot of 5-on-3s being called unnecessarily. Just things that can really determine the outcome of the game. And I know there's a couple of things you want to cut this down in. But Chris, as a former player, talk about that and then where we are in the state of the game right now.
Well, I'll say it flat out. I think every team that was in the playoffs in the first round, including the losers, have a right to bitch. They have a right to bitch about the officiating. I think they've polluted the rule book so bad over the last 10, 15 years, and they keep adding shit every year. And now you're asking the officials to keep up to date properly with that. When I wasn't calling last year, I got a call this year. And the players too. I mean, look at good examples last night. Okay, it might have helped the Rangers, or it didn't might have helped the Rangers. You can either look at it both ways. But nobody knows the rule about the helmet coming off. You know what I mean? Nobody knew about it from the Pittsburgh side, and that's their fault. But it's also the NHL's fault for making sure that everybody knows clearly what the rule's about. Now we're talking about like officiating. You can't sustain the crap that they're calling. It's impossible. I mean, I'll talk about the Leaf game the other night. The first 5-7 minutes of the Leaf game, Toronto dumps the puck in. Player goes to chase. Tampa D-man shadows him. I remember 8 years ago, 9 years ago, when we were doing our show on the radio. That rule was an automatic. It was an automatic interference.
Yeah.
You couldn't do that. What happened to that rule now all of a sudden?
Obstruction.
There's no explanation from the NHL about that one.
Right.
I can remember clearly when they put that rule in. God, they're going to penalize these guys for pinching off a player.
Right.
But now it's totally gone again because Tampa Bay was perfect at it in the first period against Toronto. And then, then later in the game, guess what? Interference call on Tavares. I'm not blaming this for the reason why the Leafs lost or anything like that, but you just can't sustain the crap that they're calling.
Right.
And it comes down to this to me. And I think you and I have talked about it. I might have said it on here in a previous show, but not only do the players get a piece of paper in the morning and video room instruction about the team you're playing. If I was playing today, I want to know who's reffing the game. I want to know what their tendencies are now. I want to know those two guys on the ice. What do they usually call? What do they don't usually call? What do they call more? What do they don't call more? That's how fucked up it's got now, in my eyes, as a player. So, you can't figure it out anymore.
So let me stop you 1 second, because I really want the listeners to hear this. Chris played in the NHL better part of 12 and a half years, right, Chris?
10 years total, basically 12 years pro.
Right. You're saying now, as a retired player, I never, when I played, really had a scouting report on, who the officiating was going to be done by.
Never.
Now today, you're like, if I was playing,
I'm taking it on myself.
I'm not a player, but I would just scout the officiating.
I would exactly, Paul. If I was playing today and they don't hand me a sheet, I want to know what their tendencies are.
Right.
Throughout the whole season, what did they call? What did they not call? I want to know this shit now, so I know what I can do, what I can't do. What can I get away with? What can I not get away with? There's just so much there now. I mean, you got two officials on the ice now. One sees one way, one sees the other. So I got to know this shit. As a player, you got to know now. And I mean, I could take it just even a little further, a little minutia here. Like, have you seen so many face-offs, the puck not being dropped?
Oh.
Ever?
Yeah. It's ridiculous.
I mean, like we're talking about centermen getting booted out. Some of the times it's intentional. I get it, where they like to set up that real centerman coming in. Okay, mm-hmm. Hopefully the other guy gets thrown out. But I'm just giving you all the stuff that they've thrown at the league, thrown at the players themselves, and I'm going to include the referees. You got to feel bad for them too sometimes. It's whatever happened to the keep it simple, stupid routine. The game was great on its own. Now you have so much shit out there that it's just too complicated. And as a fan, I keep beating the dead horse. As a fan, you're watching this stuff happen. And I don't know if the NHL understands this, but we get almost every replay possible except for the main board up in Toronto when it comes to deciding on offsides and goals. So we see stuff too, people, up there in the NHL office that you think we don't see.
Right.
So it boils down to if I was playing today, I'd be honest with you. I'd like to know who's refereeing the game. I really do. The days are gone where you had a Paul Stewart, you had a Terry Gregson and stuff like that, where you kind of knew what you were getting into before the puck dropped that night. Right. I mean, today you have no idea what you're going to get. It's the truth and it's the facts, people. If you don't believe it, then I don't know what you're watching.
I think, and again, I really hope the listener understands what Chris is saying. As a pro in this league, when he played, they didn't really think, they weren't too worried, or they didn't focus on.
Never.
If you understand how a player preps for a game, and I think this is so important, and this is why I love doing the show, because it brings an insight that a lot of people don't realize, is that, Chris will talk to you about the mental preparation of the game as he goes and grabs another black and tan, and he'll talk to you about what the mindset is of a player who is getting ready for a game. As a defenseman, what's the top line? Who's in? Who's out? What are the players' tendencies? Obviously, a lot of hockey fans, this kind of stuff. For him to sit here and say, listen, Paul, if I was playing today, not only would I do my homework on the players, but I would do my homework on the officiator.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's big. That. There's a lot to be said about that, and I hope a lot of the listeners.
I don't think anybody else is going to talk about it like this, Paul. You and I
Nobody
will.
is. Nobody is.
I would ask my team, whoever's in charge of the stats and started the preview sheet for the game, who's their lineup, this, that. I would ask them. I want to know what the referees are, who the referees are. Obviously, the sheet's going to say that night, but I want to know more about how they officiate games.
Right.
I want to know what their absolute tendencies are. How often do they call a holding penalty? How often do they call a high sticking penalty? How often do they call all these penalties? I want to know that, because this is what it's turned to. And listen, this is not. I'm not putting a total black mark on the officials. They are instructed to call what the front office and the upstairs office in Manhattan tells them to call. Right. Okay. Now sometimes they're full of shit on it. I'll agree with that. Okay, they make mistakes too. We know that, but this is what it's come down to.
Yeah.
I mean, I would definitely want to know what the tendencies of every official that I'm stepping on the ice is with that night. And why not? In today's day and age, why not?
Well, yeah. I mean, again, I think that's a very, very valid.
I never worried about Paul Stewart or any of the guys back then. But, I mean, yeah, we might have worried about some of the stuff that went on during the game. You know what I mean? But not before games.
Right.
You know,
exactly. On the officiating. I get it. I know. I get it. And I think it's important. When you say that, I think it's important for the fan or the listener of the program to really.
I just can't imagine it's gotten to this, though. But it's a fact now. If you're a player, you should be doing that.
Ever since we've done this show, and obviously we've done that. We've been friends for the better part of over 10 years now.
Yeah.
I think it's almost 12, to be honest, if I'm being honest with you. But more importantly, we used to talk about how, and I was very adamant about this, and I've kind of let it go, but I think it's time to bring it back. Every year we talked about, hey, Chris, we're opening up. Here it is, October 5th. There's 3 different rule changes. There's 4 different rule changes this year. There's a new rule change here. There's a new rule. Every year we got fed a little more shit in our sandwich. And now, and you said this a million times, you said at some point the players are no longer going to be responsible for anything that happens. The rule book is going to either protect them, reject them, whatever the case may be is. And here we are now, where the officiating becomes such a dominating part of the game. And like I said, I've watched hockey for the better part of 40 years. And I mean, obviously, there's always going to be bad officiating, but I feel like this year it's scary officiating. And like you said, and we always said this too, it was like, they came up with the obstruction rule, and then came the playoffs to kind of let go a little bit of it. But, you don't see obstruction call. I haven't seen an obstruction call in probably 3 years.
But that's why I think every team in the playoffs, like I mentioned when we started this, can be, very pessimistic about the officiating. The losers can complain all they want. You know what? And they have a right to, because I guarantee in one of their 6 or 7 or 5 games, whatever they got beaten, there was a call that was totally absurd. And vice versa. The teams that won probably got a couple of gift calls here and there. You know what I mean? But, I just wish it would. I'm watching the Calgary game last night, okay, after the Rangers won, because I was still fired up from the win, so I wanted to stay up and watch it. That's the way I want to see hockey played. There was penalties called, but not very many for what was going on the ice. They could have called more, but they let it go.
Right.
And as the typical playoff game, where as it gets later in the game and a tie game, they let more go. You know what I mean? But I wish they'd let the players decide the outcomes of the games. I wish they'd let the players decide the policing of the games. And while we're at it, I got to throw this in because I'll forget about it after the 3rd beer. That rule about shooting the puck out of your own end into the crowd is absolutely horrid.
Yeah.
Do you people in the NHL offices actually think a fucking player really wants to shoot the puck out? Do you really think that that's intentional? One of the dumbest rules in the history of sports, as far as I'm concerned. It is.
I don't disagree with you. I don't.
We went through this on our radio show, Paul. You have a rule for 1/3 of your surface?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I think of that right there.
Hey, listen. You're always going to get Kotzy's best, man. That's it. He's gonna tell you how it is.
I don't know anybody. Maybe 1 in 1,000 somebody's intentionally put it out. Yeah. And yet they call that's a great rule. We got to put that rule in. It'll help. It'll help scoring. It'll help this. It'll help. Bullshit.
Well, I guess we'll see as the playoffs move on into the second round. We're going to talk about the bracket right now. We're going to. I'm going to gloat.
You got to lead off. You were 8 for 8, big boy. You know.
All right. Well,
I'm going to put up on my Facebook page, paulydbets.com.
Well, listen. We both agreed that Carolina would beat Boston.
Yeah, but Boston gave them a tougher time than I expected.
7 games, can't ask for more than that. Not exactly what I expected. I actually had
Carolina. They looked like in the end we're the better team, but you know what, Paul? They look beatable. Sorry,
yeah.
Look beatable.
But now this series against the Rangers, and we'll talk about it, they get their number 1 goalie back too. Let's not forget, they were playing with Antti Ranta. So, but we'll move forward. We're going to move forward, and then we'll talk about it. I'm going to move over to St. Louis, Minnesota. I said St. Louis in 6, and that's
I said the opposite.
And you said Minnesota in 6, right?
Yeah. Well, listen, that I watched a lot of that series, and after the first game, I thought it was going to be a slaughter. Then Minnesota came back and actually had a lead in that 5th game by 2-0. Yeah, Paulie D, but mine says Yingling Black, so I don't have one of them big mugs here. And if you get me one of those, it better be twice that size. Anyhow.
Oh, boy.
Many disappointed me in that one. When they had that lead 2-0 in the 5th game and then choked it away, I knew that was trouble. And give St. Louis credit.
Yeah.
Paulie D credit.
Yeah. Well, the thing with St. Louis too is the goaltending situation isn't at its prime over there. So, but yeah, that was a good series. I did have St. Louis, and we'll bounce over to Tampa, Toronto. I don't know if Chris picked Toronto out of the love for Toronto.
I did. Well, no, I picked them because I thought it was their year, and Tampa was not the beast that you thought they were all year, and they're still not the beast in my mind. They got a couple of gift calls as far as I'm concerned. We were talking about the officiating when they needed it the most, like the 3-2 overtime game that they won in Tampa in Game 6 when they got the double minor in the middle of the 3rd period, so Kucherov could tie the game. I mean, people in Toronto remember that shit, and also what I talked about in the last game. I mean, there's no interference calls the whole game until Tavares scored. So I'm not going to blame Tampa for winning because obviously they're a solid hockey club, and Vasilevsky basically shut the Leafs high octane down the last 2 games when he needed to. Yeah. But I just want to talk about the Leafs a little bit because I played for them for 4 years. I am a hometown boy, and I got a lot of Leaf people asking me stuff about it. I'm disappointed in them. I really am. I mean, you had a 3-2. You had a 3-2 lead. You got one of the top players in the league and probably the best offense, like as far as I'm concerned, in the league too. And you couldn't win one of the 2 games. So what gives here now? Is it time to bust them up? Is it time to get rid of management? Is it Brendan Shanahan's fault and Dubas's fault for not bringing in the right players? I think overall in that series, Tampa's still Tampa, okay? There's nothing changed with them as far as I'm concerned. Right. I don't see them as the major – listen, they could win it all. I told you that, but They're not the juggernaut that everybody thinks they are, that they're going to rock through everybody. The Leafs just proved that by taking them to 7 games, okay? But the Leafs, I think I blame this on management for not putting the right players on the roster to go with that offense. They got a little bigger on the back end, but Paulie, what I noticed every time Tampa was stumped the puck in or was battling on the boards and behind the Leaf net or on the sides, Leaf guys don't hit nobody. They don't take nobody. They're not forceful. They're not physical, and that's where I think Tampa won the battles. Yeah. They won the battles inside the Leaf zone, and you got these guys there that, like, I mean, you know, O'Reilly's you know, the defenseman there. He's a good offensive defenseman, but he needs to have somebody tough playing with him. And I didn't see that kind of physical play that they needed in the playoffs, and that's really the reason there. But you know what? Brendan Shanahan's got a plan, and I love Brendan Shanahan as a player. But he has a 5-year plan. He's in his 8th year, so figure it out.
Yeah.
Well, facts are facts, right?
Yep.
Listen, give me 8 years. I could do the same thing they've done with that team.
I've always listen. I wish you would stop and go fucking coach some hockey.
Nobody put up with my shit.
I don't know. I mean,
they wouldn't put up with my shit because I wouldn't put up with theirs, and the next thing you know, it'd be cancel culture. This, oh, he's this. It's a hostile work environment. Next thing you know, they'll have me wearing a fucking skirt to office every day. I don't care what people think. You know that by now. I really don't give a shit.
That's funny. You're funny, Chris. All right, let's move on. I thought this was a good series too. Oilers and the Kings.
This one shocked
me. Yeah, you are. Well,
I didn't think LA was that good.
Oh well, you.
Did you know they were that good to take Edmonton that far? I mean, right on the cusp.
Well, I did say 7 just because the Oilers.
I said 5. Edmonton at 5. I didn't know LA was that good. I mean, I guess Jonathan Quick had a resurgence in his career there. I mean, I watched a lot of this series too, and you think about it, they had a home game 6 to win the series, LA. But guess what? Finally happened on the western side of Canada, or whatever way my hands are going. Connor McDavid showed up. He showed up and showed the world what a class superstar he is. The guy was outstanding in this series. When they needed him the most,
he was there.
He showed up, and he won that series. And I'll give Smith, the goaltender, a little credit too, but he won that series by himself in the last 2 games.
Huh.
So now
dynamic individual. What a future, man! Forget it.
Oh, he was just incredible, Paulie. I mean, the moves he made, the goals he scored at the right time. You know, he led that team. He led that team like he's supposed to for the last 7 whatever so years. It finally happened for him, and he's slayed one demon, but he's jumping into the cave with a big dragon there called Calgary now.
Yeah, we'll talk about the next round here coming. Colorado. I think we both knew Colorado would, take.
I said 5 games. I gave Nashville 1, but Colorado
So did I.
Yeah, it'll be. Let's put it this way: we all know how good Colorado is. It'll be real interesting now to see what happens with them in St. Louis.
Yeah. Well, obviously the Panthers. You went with the Panthers.
Yep.
You went against the Flames.
No, I didn't.
So you lost the Dallas series. What was the other?
I lost 2 series. That's it.
Dallas.
I lost the Leafs
series.
Right.
The Leafs and Dallas. Okay,
listen,
right.
I sucked compared to you, but don't make my score any lower.
Yeah.
You must have like
I scratched my head. I was like,
You must be using Italian arithmetic or something.
So we both knew Colorado. We both said 5. I mean, I don't think you can get any closer than that without a crystal ball, for crying out loud.
No.
Moving on to Calgary. What a great series this was, huh?
It was
against Dallas. Last night's game, I was looking at some of the statistics. What did I say? Calgary had 65 shots on goal, and Dallas wasn't too bad at like 40, 45. So, I mean, it was.
The goaltender for Dallas was incredible last night. Probably, I'll say it flat out, the best performance I've seen in a goaltender in the playoffs, playoff series.
Yeah,
and he loses. You figure it out.
Yeah, well, isn't that prototypical? Yes, I'm sorry, 67 shots on goal, and that was way off with Dallas. Dallas only had 28, so almost over double the amount of shots, and to win that game 3-2. But perfect example of what you're talking about. What great goaltending on the Dallas.
He was throughout the whole playoffs. There's been some great goaltending, but that was the best performance I'd seen out of any goaltender in the playoffs last night. In a loss, you figure it out. I mean, Johnny Hockey ends up scoring the winning goal, but you know how many like opportunities he had in that game before he scored that winner? I'm talking in close, breakaway type, one-on-one type stuff, and Ottinger just stoned him the whole night. He had at least a half a dozen or more before that.
Right.
And other players too. He looked really good. I'll admit it. I never even heard of Ottinger until this year. And he looked just last night in the loss, unfortunately.
No, I don't disagree, man. The numbers don't
lie. Calgary got pushed, and they got pushed pretty good in this series by Dallas. Think about it. I never thought Dallas was going to go, to the 7th game, and they did. And they had a shot. Didn't work out for them.
Yeah, well, what I'm trying to do is look up the series game caps with a couple of things, because we had this discussed last week, and we might do this later on because there's way too much to do right now. But last show, we talked about how significant the number 1, number 2, number 3 power play, the penalty kill, all those types of things would come into play. And when we talk about the Rangers, we'll talk about how well their power play did in getting them back in games because they were behind in many opportunities. That power play really did make a difference. But we'll probably talk about
you and I are going to still debate that one, because the Rangers were 0 for something until they scored that one in overtime last night.
Well, the last 2 games they did. They had.
Well, they scored a couple. Yeah, no question. But before then, they weren't very good. Before then,
right.
To get back in the series is what you're talking about.
Exactly.
Well, okay,
they counted. You talk.
That's acceptable.
Yeah. So the last series, which was a real surprise, I thought. I mean, I know Kotze didn't, but. I think you did. I didn't think Florida would struggle with the Capitals the way they did, Kotz, to be honest with you.
Well, again,
here's the number 1 team in the league, right? Most points in the league.
Yeah.
Second, a lot of 1, 2, 3.
But I can throw it right back. I said, did you think Boston would take Carolina to 7?
No.
So there you go. I mean, it's playoff hockey. Washington still had a little fight, and they still got a little bit of talent in that team. And Florida, this is uncharted waters for Florida again. Remember, they haven't been in, they haven't won a round since 1996.
Yeah.
Okay, so they got the job done. They actually won a couple of games late, tying it up in an overtime. They got the job done. They're a good, solid team. It's going to be a great matchup between them and Tampa. There's no question about it. But again, you look at Washington. Washington's getting a little old in the tooth these days. Your boy Alex Ovechkin's got about as much gray hair as I do now. Backstrom's getting up there. Oshie's getting up there. They got some big decisions to make on that team. If you want to regroup, retool the team, you know what I mean? But Florida looks like a team that kind of like what I'm going to say about the Rangers. I watched a lot of their game. I don't think they put a 60-minute game together, and yet they still won the series, and they won it in 6.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Covered so far in the playoffs and announces. Barry, I promise that as soon as we get set up here, I'll answer and ask Chris a bunch of the questions. Barry's got a couple of really good things I want to talk about too. What a great contributor. No, I agree, Kotz. I agree, and I think I think there's going to be a lot of decisions over there in Washington. But I mean, as long as Ovechkin's going to play, you know, I don't know what the contracts are for like Oshie and Backstrom and so on and so forth, but they're going to have to start to make some decisions over there.
Yeah, you know what? I'll leave it. I'll leave it at this. I really don't care.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a lot.
Capitals. I don't care.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said about Pittsburgh too, though. Same type of thing. Here's a team that at one time was the most dominant team in the league, was always the scariest team to play against, with Crosby and Tang and Malkin. And just name and name and name. And there was a lot of guys that came in and went out. It was Chris Kunitz when they were winning Stanley Cups, and a bunch of other names. So they're another team that in that era with the Capitals that kind of are aging out, and they're really going to have to figure out what they're going to do over there.
Well, I don't think they're going to. I'll be honest with you, I don't think they're going to change much. They won't. I think a lot of their guys are still young underneath Crosby, and I got a feeling they're gonna stick with Malkin. They got no choice because I don't think anybody wants him for the contract he's got. To be quite honest with you. Same with Letang. Same with Letang. He's another guy. Listen, Pittsburgh didn't play bad. I don't care what you tell me. They didn't play bad at all. I mean, I'm certainly glad the Rangers came back and stuck it to him and all that stuff. But Crosby proved once again that he's still one of the best players in the league, regardless what anybody tells me. I have Patrick Roy syndrome, except for one difference. Their thumbs in my ears when it comes to the criticisms of Sidney Crosby. Okay? The guy's still a great player, period. End of story. Go ahead, say something, Paulie. I'm listening.
Well, listen, fans, I know you want me to attack right now. I mean, I can't. Here's the thing. On the technical side, obviously he's was rated at one time the best player in the world, and
the players still think he's the best all-around player this year. Yeah. The players voted that.
Arguably the best player in the world. I've never been a fan, and I have a lot of different reasons why. But you can't, whether you're a fan or not, you can't debate the facts, and I get that. When the facts are the facts, when you got the truth on your side, it is what it is. You can hate them all you want. I can't stand the player, to be honest with you. There's a lot of things I don't like about him, but like Chris said, you can't debate the fact that he's a great hockey player, and he makes. And Chris and I were on the phone the other day, and we've talked about this a million times. And, any hockey player out there will tell you that what makes a great player is that other players around them accelerate and become better and do more. And, Chris's point is, who's Gensel without Crosby? And,
who was he before?
Right. And you think about that. You think about who was Jari Kurri and look at all these other players around the world and through different decades and genres or whatever you want to call it. There's players that make you better. Look at Adam Graves because of Mark Messier. I mean, it's that simple. If you want to be honest, if we're being honest, Adam Graves is a blue collar, great teammate, and he scores 50 goals.
You hit a good point there. I played against Adam Graves when he was in Detroit. And he obviously had Stevie Yzerman to look up to for a short period of time, about a year, 2 years. But when he went to Edmonton, you bring up a good point. If you really compare Adam Graves' best years with the Rangers when he scored 52, it will kind of remind you of I don't want to say it, but this is how you use the word. He played like a poor man's Messier.
Yeah.
His game was just like Messier in a way.
Yeah.
Except obviously not the Hall of Fame type caliber, but
Right.
very that's
blue.
the kind of game. And I'll give you another thing about Adam Grace that people underestimate. He was a tough son of a bitch too.
Yeah.
He could fight.
One of my favorite New York Rangers of all time is Adam Graves, man. That guy bled red, white, and blue. Just loved the fans, loved the Garden. Did anything did anything for his teammates.
Listen, I think the discussion started out with Crosby, and I understand when you come up and you eloquently say your dislike for him, and I understand because I have the same dislike for the Great Ape in Washington. The thing that really irks me the most though is how when venom is spewed about players, it all seems to be towards Crosby and never towards number 8 in Washington.
Yeah.
What is it that you guys don't see with 8 that you see with Crosby? Are you sitting there trying to tell me that this guy's not a bitch and a dirty player in Washington? Is that what you guys are trying to tell me all these years? Because if it is, you guys need to get your eyes checked. He's got one Stanley Cup champion in 17 years. Okay? He's never made anybody better on his team. They didn't win a cup till they got guys like Ocean. They didn't win a cup till they got a defensive coach like Trotz. If Sidney Crosby did not play in this series with the Rangers, do you think it would have won 7 games?
Probably not.
I don't. I think it would have been 5 or less for the Rangers.
And I think,
that's the difference between the 2 players. The difference between the 2 players is Alex Ovechkin is going to go down as the greatest, if not the greatest goal scorer of all time. I sure hope he doesn't break Gretzky's record, but it's possible. I'll give him that. But other than that, you can't compare the 2. You will not in my book, and not anybody that played the game's book. They're not comparable. Crosby's the better player, period.
All-around player.
Better player, period. I don't care which way you want to say it. Better player, period. Proof's in the pudding.
Well, he's still a bitch.
Yeah, so your boy's a bitch times 2.
God, he gets so mad. Or I can't.
Don't matter to me.
As much as Kossi can't stomach Ovechkin, I can't stomach Sidney Crosby. But it doesn't beat the fact that he is a great player. I mean, listen, I'll be honest with you.
Your arguments are good, but they're not on my level argument. You're still below my argument. Show me the results, people, between the 2 in their careers. That's all I wanted you to do. Just show me the results. That's all.
Chris, the guy's the only. Alex Ovechkin is the only guy the world has ever talked about that could possibly break Gretzky's goal scoring record.
Who cares? How many Stanley Cups have you got?
I mean,
how many MVPs have you got? How many gold medals have you got? How many Olympics you got? How much did you win?
That's big.
That's the question.
He's still got a ring, so he's got a ring. But let's move past this because we'll never find common ground here.
No.
Here's a perfect example, okay? Because I've said this a bunch of times. Look at what a good player a Guinea Malkin is. But you know what? His dirtiness and the way that he plays overcomes his ability for most that look at him, except for Penguins fans. There's a lot of – I mean, you've said it to me a million times. You're like, this guy is the king of Slewfoot. He's been the dirtiest player that I can imagine for the longest time.
I agree.
Yet his talent – the guy's talented, man. And if he wasn't so injured, he'd probably have more than what he has now.
But again, there's a reason why all this happens with guys like Malkin. There's a reason why Ovechkin gets away with the crap that he's gotten away with. Oh, what a great hit that was. In the meantime, you look in the rule book, it's not a great hit. It's actually a penalty. But it's Alex Ovechkin, so we'll let him get away with it. Malkin is the same thing. Okay, but he's not in Ovechkin's tier. Even though Malkin's won 3 Stanley Cups, by the way, okay, he is a dirty prick. I agree with you. He's dirtier than dirty. But this is what I'm talking about, how the game has evolved and changed. If Guinea Malkin pulls this crap 30 years ago, 40 years ago, he's going to have to stand up for himself sooner or later. Because I can't see a Barry Beck. I can't see a Ben Wilson. I can't see a Dave Semenko. I can't see a Tiger Williams. I can't see a Tim Hunter. I can't see a Terry O'Reilly or John Wensing. I go down the list that's going to put up with that shit. Okay? Right. And I can say the same thing about your boy Ovechkin. You keep running the boys like you've been running them for the last 17 years. Try that for 1 week in the NHL back then. We'll see how good a player you end up being. This league has changed to let these guys do this stuff. I just still don't understand why players continuously let one guy dominate you when it comes to hitting without any repercussion. None. In the meantime, Crosby gets killed. Crosby gets hit. Crosby gets slashed. Crosby has concussions. Where do you get those from? You think he bangs his own head on the ice all the time? No, he gets involved. Ovechkin never gets involved. Nobody goes after the guy. Period. End of story. It's like he's untouchable. Like there's a rule in the league that says we cannot hit Alex Ovechkin. We cannot Scott Stevens him from one side of the ice and KO him like we did with Lindros. No, that can't happen. So we can bitch about this all we want. You hate Crosby. I hate Ovechkin. We'll leave it at that. All I know is one's got a better resume than the other. In the end, that's what they're going to be judged by.
Well, I won't. I'm just going to leave it there.
And the goal scoring thing too. You know, the game's changed to a point where they allow this stuff. Okay, like he's a one-time player. I give him credit. That part I've never denied you. The guy can score. I'm not going to argue that. He's got a great skill when it comes to scoring. There's no question about that. But he's a one-dimensional player, Paul. He doesn't do anything else. Doesn't make his players better. Doesn't back check. Doesn't do any of that stuff. And you know what? If he breaks Gretzky's record, good for him. Then you're going to sit there. Then you're going to try and compare him to Gretzky? Please.
Well, I mean, if he beats Gretzky's goal scoring record, Cots, there's going to be a lot to talk about. What you like to or not.
You're not going to compare him as a player, please.
Listen.
Please don't compare him as a player. Okay. You just tell me he's the greatest goal scorer of all time, and I'll go, okay.
Okay, well, I guess we'll cross that bridge when it comes to it. In the end, there's a lot of debate, and I don't have time for it right now. But what I will say, as I was looking for our old, and I'm going to pull it up, but I was looking for our old intro that I had made for our show.
I was talking about
where Chris says, if it's anybody else but Alex Ovechkin, that's an automatic suspension.
Truth hurts, doesn't it?
So it just cracks me up. I need a beer myself. Well, we got to move on. We're falling way behind talking about Sidney the Bitch Crosby.
Well, because as much as you know it bothers me, I know it bothers you. Okay?
It gets crazy, man.
You can't wait. You can never wait to shit on Crosby either.
I think sometimes I like to poke the bear.
No. You've never had a good thing to say about him. At least I tell you he's a great scorer. About Crosby, you've never had a good thing to say.
Listen, there's no denying Crosby's talent. There's no denying that.
Crosby's going to go down as one of the top 10 players of all time, period. Anyhow, go ahead. What's next?
All right.
I got to switch here.
Listen, I know. I need my final beer, but I'm going to say this topic and then grab it. But we didn't talk about the Rangers. We didn't talk about the Rangers series, really. Rangers Penguins. Cots, I have a lot to say.
I do.
He made some notes. I got to tell you, a lot of people bombard me with questions about what I'm seeing, how I feel, what's my opinion. Well, first and foremost, obviously, as this series began to unravel early, we had talked about it. I was very concerned with Shesterkin. He looked shaky at times at best. He looked they did not look confident. He looked very unconfident. He just didn't look like he ever settled into a couple of those games, and it made me very nervous, especially because that was the advantage going into the series was Shesterkin. Here he is. They're talking about Vezina Trophy. They're talking about Hart Trophy. They're talking about the best goals against average, and he just looked shaky at best at times. So that was a huge topic in this. Last night was probably he looked like Shesterkin again, and I was like,
He had to be.
He really was. But we talk about the highs and lows in this series, and I have to tell you, when the Rangers went down 3-1, I said, you know what? I was very disappointed, and I'm not kidding. And I'm going to flip this shortly, but I was very disappointed in Chris Kreider. I was very disappointed in Zibanejad. Panarin, I thought he had scored a couple, he had some assists, but I didn't think his decision making was well. I thought some of it just pass. I was really concerned with what considered was the core or the older core of this team. We know that this team is filled with kids. So a lot of us, including myself, thought, great, they made the playoffs. They went into this really going to see what they're made of. And I'm still at the point, and I hate to say this to fans, but I think the real fans, I mean, my expectations, I don't expect a lot out of this team at this point moving forward. Now, anything can happen, and I'm hoping for the best. With all of that said, my point of this was coming back to win from 3-1 deficit is huge. And then the last 3 games, this team is down. They never held leads for long periods of time. And when it all came down to it, they had to tie up the game and win the game. I mean, the game 6, would they win? There was a minute left, a minute 25 seconds left when Domingue, there's some luck in this game, and it goes to both sides. So, Domingue hits it, and for some reason it goes past them, and the Rangers win that hockey game. A lot to be said about how much they're coming back, Kotze. First, it's exciting, but Kotz, it's also very scary, and I'll just kind of hand that over to you there. It's scary for this team to continually 3-1, they come back. 3 games, they got to come back at some point, tie it up and win. It's great, but it's not really the perfect formula if you're gonna win this thing.
No, it's not the perfect formula, but I'm going to go back to the rest of the series out there. The big juggernaut Tampa had to go 7 games to win their series, didn't they? So did the Rangers. So did whatchamacallit there too. Another 7th game last night with Calgary. Yeah. I agree with a ton of things you said there, and none of them are arguable. I agree. Shesterkin was not Shesterkin. I think collectively, I was at the Rangers Zone 2 days ago with Ron Greshner, and they have a cardboard cutout there of, let's see, Shesterkin, Kreider, Zibanejad, Panarin, Strome, and Fox. And I looked at it and I said, those guys collectively have not played great yet in a game. Right. And they still haven't throughout the whole series. But, Paulie, they won the games. They came back and won the games, period. End of story. They've been doing it all year. That's like the 31st time they've come back to win games this year. So that's not a fluke, okay? Yeah. When you do that 30-plus times, that's not a fluke. And I know you say it doesn't bode well for the playoffs, but I look at Carolina and, they didn't exactly blow out the Boston Bruins, except maybe once or twice in that 7 games. Yeah. So, I think when we make our predictions, I think we're going to make before we get off the air here. I think the Rangers deserve to win that series, even though they were down 3 games to them, because there's so many factors involved. Hey, if they got the call right in the first game, that would have been their game, 4-3. They'd have been up 1-0. But they blew the call, and then Pittsburgh wins in overtime. So that changed a lot of the series right there, how people thought about Shesterkin's play and everybody else's play. You know what I mean?
Right.
I think they still won because of the gutty way that they've done it all year. They didn't win it by playing together as a team. They just gutted it out and managed to score goals at the right time. And I'll give Gallant a lot of credit last night, Paulie. He realized that this is a seventh game, and you're not going to wait for shit to happen. He started benching guys and dropping guys down to the fourth line, third line, moving guys up all over the ice. None of those lines that started the game ended up playing at the end of the game. They were all different. He made a great move there, and he called a timeout in that overtime, remember, for the power play goal. So there's a lot of credit given to the coach there, mixing things up and all that stuff there. They got the job done. Panarin finally showed up in a big way. Okay? This team has yet to play one solid game, and yet they're going on to the second round. If they play what they're capable of playing, I'm going to say it now. They're going to beat Carolina. I hate to tell you, that's my prediction. It's not a biased prediction. It's not a biased prediction. I just feel that they didn't play great, and yet they were able to win.
It's true.
So they're not. Are they going to play shitty again? I doubt that. Are they going to play, up and down hockey? I doubt that. And I think the way to beat Carolina is you got to match them with the physicality. Carolina hits everybody. They're not overly physical, like to hurt you with their hits, but they take the body. You got to do the same to them. But the Rangers, if you look on paper right now, who's got the better offensive players between Carolina and I think the Rangers are better offensively. You got Zibanejad, you got Kreider, you got Panarin. You can't name me three other guys other than Trocheck and Aho there on Carolina up front.
They have a lot. They're very spread out. I tell you, Tony DeAngelo's got a ton of points.
Well, you and I have always been arguing. Now you're going to see is the battle between Fox and DeAngelo now.
Yeah.
We'll see how that works out on the power plays and the offensive side of the game.
Yeah.
But give the Rangers credit, Paul. They've done it over 30 times this year. They found a way to beat Pittsburgh. They had some bad calls, obviously, against them. I mean, let's call it what it is. They had some really shitty refereeing in some of those games, and they still managed to win. Yeah. And one more thing about Shesterkin. You were dead on about how he just looked uncomfortable. But you know what? It was his first playoff series in this Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
So
I know. It's exciting.
Give him the benefit of the doubt. You know what I mean? On this one. And when push came to shove in the seventh game of do it all, listen, Pitt got up in that game. He shut the door.
Yes.
Okay. And and they probably wouldn't have had to go to overtime if that guy that you like so much didn't cough up the puck at the blue line there. I think his name's Cheadle.
Such a ball buster. Yeah.
What a stupid play. That's just pure stupidity. You're the last guy inside the blue line. You are the last guy, and you're going to go cross-ice pass? Really?
Inexperienced silliness.
Oh, inexperienced? 5 years in the league.
Silliness. Well, you know what?
That's what I think. Okay, what do you want to do? We want to do our predictions here as we're running out of time, or what? What do you think?
Yeah, we'll do predictions now, and then we'll talk. We'll get back a little bit into it.
What's Barry got there for you?
He's got a bunch. You wanted to.
Actually, I got it on there. Barry, you got a ton of stuff.
You see it?
Well, yeah. He liked one. That wasn't in the stands there, Barry. That was outside with that shot of me on TNT where I grabbed the wrestler's head mask.
Let me see here. I screwed this all up now. Uh-oh.
What'd you do now?
Oh, man. Try to get back here. Here we go. I don't know. I touched something. I shouldn't have touched it. All right. You can see. Can you see the comments, Chris, in the comment section?
Yeah, I can.
All right.
It's all Barry. It's all Barry.
Yeah, it's always Barry.
Barry's
he's asking that. He's the best, dude. He's the best. Let's see here. What do we do? All right, let's do our predictions, and then we'll go from there.
All right, let's do them.
Still trying to figure out what I did here. 5%. Go back to the reset. All right.
You didn't see my little. Here's my little Ranger Dragon too. By the way, look.
Oh, he's cool. He's cool.
That was courtesy of Coca-Cola when they were a sponsor. Okay. Now they're not a sponsor anymore. It's Pepsi.
Well, all right. Pepsi. Well, I got to say a lot of good things about Pepsi. My dad worked for Pepsi, and they were very good to my family. So thank you, Pepsi. Let's see here. Come on, once we get this thing up and
I can throw these shit predictions out. Take a look, Paul. I can throw these ones out now.
Well, listen, you did your what?
Listen, I still would have made money had I just wouldn't have made as much as you.
All right. Well, I'll let you start.
What series we starting with here?
All right.
Let's take the Tampa, Florida, right off the bat. I'm going Florida.
You going Tampa?
I'm taking Florida.
All right. I'm going Tampa. 7 games.
Yeah. Well,
I'm gonna write these down.
The other way. Yeah, you write them down. I'm not gonna write mine down this time because you're gonna be perfect and I'm not.
All right. You want me to write yours down too?
Yeah. Why not?
All right, Paul and Chris. All right, I say
Barry. But Barry, I did not play against Stewie. Stewie was done by the time he might have still been playing in the minor league hockey. I was already up in the NHL.
All right, let's go real quick. Rangers, Carolina.
Rangers in 7.
Rangers in 7. All right, everyone's going to be mad at me.
Go ahead.
So, as much as I hope I'm wrong, I have Carolina. I have Carolina winning the Stanley Cup, just so you guys know. Okay, so but I don't want to go all the way into the finals. I'm going to say the Canes win it in 7, even though I hope that I'm wrong, and I'd be happy to be wrong.
The upset is coming.
Yeah, I hope you're right. Chris says Rangers in 7. Guys, don't be mad at me, okay? I'm just saying.
Listen, like the
they're all going to be so mad at how did you do that?
Hey, like the court judges right now, I'll give you Paulie's address and you guys can go protest.
I do. I hope that I'm wrong. I'd be so happy to be wrong, but I did say I'm going to say Canes here. All right, going out west. Let me see here.
Colorado over St. Louis. I got them over them in 6 games.
Colorado. I'm going to say 7 games, but I do agree with you. I think it's going to be Carolina and Colorado. And you said 6 games, Cots?
Yeah, I'm going to go 6.
I'm going to say 7. So far, I'm 7 across the boards. And then last but not least, we got St. Louis.
No,
I'm sorry. The battle of Alberta. We got Edmonton.
I'm letting you go first on this one.
I'm going Flames. Flames. I'm going to go Flames, and I'm going to go. I'm just, you know what? I hate to say it, but I'm going to go 7 all the way down the hall here. That's going to be. I mean, I think if there's going to be an early exit, it's going to be right there.
I really want to take Edmonton. And it's not because of one thing or another, except one thing that bothers me about taking Edmonton is I'm not worried about their goaltending. I'm not worried about their forwards. I'm worried about their 6 defensemen. They're not very good as a whole. I don't care. You got these guys there that are big names and all that crap.
Yeah.
I watched them play that series against LA. They have no clue where to be, as far as I'm concerned, position-wise. So they scare me on that one. So that's why I'm going to take Edmonton in 7.
Really?
Yep.
All right. You heard him. Edmonton in 7.
Well, what good would it be if we all took the same thing? We'd have nothing to argue about, nothing to fight
I know.
about, debate about, nothing to joke about.
All right. Well, Our differences, well, we got a lot of differences. Actually, the only thing that we agree on is Colorado. I'm going Tampa. You're going Panthers. I'm going Canes. You're going
Listen,
Rangers.
Paulie's on this Tampa train for one reason only, folks. I'm going to tell you flat out. It's because he gets freebies to go to the game. So he hopes everything goes 7 from here to the Stanley Cup. That way he gets about 6 visits in, 7 visits in for free. Free booze, free popcorn, free hot dogs, free pumpkin, free everything. And you know what? I've always told Paulie, free is good.
I don't know what he's talking about. I do frequent the Tampa Bay games though, and it's great. It's great.
Listen. If it's free, you got to go.
Yeah, but I will say this in all honesty, they're a good freaking team,
man. I don't disagree with that.
They're a good team. I mean, you talk about Stamkos, Brayden Point, Hedman's going to win. If he doesn't, he should be real close to consideration. You know,
I think they're probably going to give it to Makar this year or Roman Josi. That's my gut guess. But Hedman, listen, it took a long time for Hedman to reach what he's become. He was not a great player his first 3, 4, 5 years in the league.
No, nope.
He's been a great player probably for the last 5, 6, 7 years. Yeah. Probably the best all-around defenseman. Keyword, defenseman, which means both ends of the ice.
Yeah. You know, they got Brayden Point. They got Palat. They got Killorn. I mean, you know, look at Cirelli. I mean, they got a lot of.
They're not going to be playing the Leafs series. This is going to be a different story with them in Florida.
Yeah. I don't.
You're not going to get away with some of the stuff they got away with against the Leafs. This is going to be they better call this evenly down the middle when it comes to the officiating.
I don't see Beth, and I want to say I hope Beth's doing well.
Yeah,
she could be texting me, and I don't know, but I hope she's doing well. But I was going to say, Barry, I don't know. What was the season series between Tampa and
Florida?
I'd be curious to know what that season series was because they probably played each other, 8 times?
I don't know.
I don't know.
You know what, Paulie? You throw the season series out the window in the playoffs.
I know. Except for a couple of small things.
This is not like the olden days where this is so much different. The modern day game that it really means nothing. In the olden days, it might have meant something, but not anymore.
Yeah, well,
not anymore. Because there is really a big difference in today's modern buildings and today's modern ways of hockey compared to the old days. Like when you went into the old Philly Spectrum back in the day, you were intimidated going in there.
Right.
You know what I mean? When you went into the old Boston Garden, you were intimidated going in there. Right. And I can say a little bit about when I played with the Rangers. Like we had a tough team, so playing Madison Square Garden then was intimidating with our team. There's none of that anymore. I don't think there's any team is really intimidated by the opposing team's crowd or the opposing team's building anymore.
Well, listen, I think that the familiarity and knowing who you're playing against, knowing different tendencies that you were talking about. And then is there, I wanted to ask you this too, Kots. I think this is important. You talk about, you could throw it away, but is there maybe a time or a place where you remember, no matter what the record was, that there was just teams that you played better against and felt it just didn't matter how good or how bad they were, it just felt better against playing.
Well, like I said, the olden days is like 1985, 86 when I played with the Leafs. I don't know what we ended up with points that year, but it was under 70. And yet we made the playoffs because Detroit was just like they were in the 40s or something like that, high 40s. So automatically we were the 4th place team. The number 1 team was Chicago that year. They had 101 points. So I'm bringing up the olden days and I'm comparing it now. We played Chicago 8 times that year. We won 7 out of 8 games against Chicago that year. And I know I've mentioned this to you before, and I'm going to mention to you again. The 8th game that we played was the last game in Chicago in the regular season that we played them. They beat us in overtime in Chicago, and I blew it. I was the one that gave up the winning goal. I didn't think Kurt Fraser would get around me. He got around me. He managed to tuck it by Kenny Reagan. But when we finished the season and realized that we're going to play Chicago, we knew ahead of time that we had these guys. Didn't matter with their 101-point season. Didn't matter with their LC Court 50-plus goals. It didn't matter with Dennis Savard and Doug Wilson, all these high-point guys and all that crap. We knew that we had them because of the way we played against them all year. But that was different then because I don't think teams play each other 8 times anymore, Paul. You know what I mean? I don't think Florida and Tampa played each other 8 times this year. Maybe 4 at most or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's different today. It's different today. That it's hard to say. I don't think there's any team that can honestly go out there and say that we have a team's number anymore because if you go by that, then the Rangers shouldn't even show up against Carolina because the only win they got this year is when Georgia stopped 55 shots or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So should the Rangers show up? No. I mean, of course you show up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Of course you show up.
Yeah.
And again, if you're gonna, Carolina's done it all year. I can't deny that, but I actually wasn't impressed with them against Boston.
Yeah.
I didn't think that it would go that far against Boston. I thought Boston was like kind of a mediocre playoff team this year. And Boston pushed them to the limit, Paulie. And
they did.
I think the Rangers are a better team than the Boston Bruins are.
Amen. I wouldn't disagree. Especially when it comes to being able to find the back of the net. That's the one thing the Rangers have been consistent with all year long. And like you did make a great point. I know we talked about it throughout the year. This is the comeback team. I mean, that's what they do. I mean, they won how many games during the regular season? 25, 27 games coming from behind at some point.
I think it was 29 going into the playoffs, and now it's been at least 2 or 3 more, right?
That's sick.
Yeah,
that's sick. And like you said, it's not a fluke when you can do it that many times.
Let's put it this way. After whatever happens this season, you don't want to repeat that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
That's not the way your coaching staff wants things to happen.
Yeah, that's a coaching
nightmare. But this is the moment. This is now. And I'm still the reason why I'm going with them against Carolina is I think they haven't played their best hockey yet. They have not played their best hockey, and yet they still managed to come back from a 3-1 deficit. I mean,
and win 3 games from
people don't realize that being down at 3-1 in today's day and age is not an easy thing to do, no matter who you're playing.
No, and then to win those 3 games,
a men's league might have won that one game that they needed to close it out. You know what I'm trying to say?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, they did it.
Yeah. I know.
They went into Pittsburgh game 6, all that stuff there. You know what I mean? Down goals and whatever. Like you're talking about. Like how they came back in that game and with the power play, getting them back in it and all that stuff there. I mean, like wow.
So before we end, and we're going to end here shortly. I do want to say this. Initially, when we talked about the series, how Kreider and Zibanejad and a lot of the big names were early on kind of disappointed. I got to tell you, I've watched the last 2 games, very impressed, and I think this might be the X factor here. To see Zibanejad bounce back and to see Kreider's leadership. I don't know. I think a lot of people saw Chris Kreider take the iPad away from Zibanejad and throw it on the ground. I don't know if you really understand the maturity level of what Chris Kreider is doing there. I mean, as the fans, the listeners, the people, those are big moments because he's saying, Mika, Forget about this shit. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. You beat them clean. You hit the post. Don't overthink it. Let's not do that. And I think that shows finally, and it took Chris Kreider a long time, Kotz, and you know that.
Oh,
It took him a long time to get to where he is now. I mean, look at his goal scoring prowess. Look at when he scores that first goal, he just unleashes like a beast. He's just showing the growth and the maturity, and he's starting to take this team on for the first time of what we're seeing more than ever before. He's the quiet captain right now for that hockey team, I think.
Well, yeah, there's no
seeing what he's doing.
Well, he's also getting up there in age, Paul. He knows his time's running out too. I mean, he's 37 years old now, and he's set financially. He's just looking for his legacy right now, and he's pretty good start to that this year with the 50-something goals, but he wants a Stanley Cup. You know what I mean? And what he did with that the other night, a lot of people misconstrued it at first that he was angry at Mika for something, but it had nothing to do with that. It was already said and done in the paper what he was saying to him.
Yeah.
Here's what it boils down to me with the Rangers right now. I think Shesterkin's got his confidence back.
Yep.
Okay. So I think he'll be fine. I think Panarin's got to stop overthinking stuff. He's just overthinking everything. Unfortunately, I'm sorry. I'm glad he's overthinking stuff, Paul.
I wouldn't disagree with you.
And as good as Fox's stats are, he's got to pick it up a little bit too. Okay, just because you get assists on 4 straight goals or whatever doesn't mean you're helping the team. Okay, as far as I'm concerned, because he's still a little lackadaisical in the D zone. As far as he is, I told you to watch him. You can see they got to be better defensively. But the top guys have to put it together so the rest of the guys can follow.
Yeah,
and that's the way championship teams are built. When Gretzky and Messier and Anderson and Coffey and Curry and Fear led, the rest of the guys followed. Same thing with Bossy, Trache, Gillies. You know what I mean? Potvin.
Yeah.
Same thing there. When you look at all your Stanley Cup winners, the bottom half are important as long as the top half are doing their job.
Right.
And that's what hasn't happened yet as a collective group with the Rangers right now.
Yeah.
Now, they showed signs of breaking out of it with Zibanejad playing awesome last 2 games. Kreider picking up a couple of goals. Panarin, scoring that. That's a biggie. That overtime goal's got to help you out mentally too. Winning a 7th game. And Shesterkin finally getting back to what he does best. I feel that the best is yet to come with this team right now. That's how I feel.
I really, truly hope that you're correct.
I believe so. I just do.
And you make a lot of great valid points. I think this series really kind of taught a couple of these players, what it's going to take to move forward, and it's exciting to see. The other guy I want to mention, quietly, like you said, the addition of Mott.
He played great. I didn't think he was coming back. Remember I told you that on the phone?
Yeah.
He was fantastic last night.
And I tell you,
and as far as I'm concerned, up till they were the best 2 players for the first part of that game, and probably 3/4 of that game were Mott and Shesterkin.
Yeah,
because the other guys hadn't showed up yet.
Yeah. I tell you who else I really like. Really, I thought I was impressed with. I've been impressed with Vetrano's tenacity. He doesn't shy away from a hit. He doesn't shy away from a scrum. He's not going to back down, and I like that about him. I really do. He's a little bit of a shit stir. He can agitate a little bit. He's not afraid.
Well, you got to have guys like that on your team.
Yeah.
He hasn't been scoring as much as he probably wants to, like he did it during the end of the season and stuff. But you got to have guys like that. You got to win. They don't do what they did in the old days, Paul. They obviously drop the gloves and go at it every scrum. But every now and then you got to get that last shove in. You got to get that last word in. Let the other team know that, hey, we're real. You know
Yeah.
You got to have guys like that. You got to have guys like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I hate the scrums today because it's all fake.
Yeah.
But if it's going to be fake, at least fake your way like you're winning it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And Chris, I thought Trouba struggled early, but I thought the last couple games he really, I think he's,
That's what I'm saying. You're right.
He's played better hockey. So
I forgot about him.
I think Trouba's a big, he's a big part of what goes on in the back end there, and he brings a lot of offense, good shot. He's not afraid to, to mix it up a little bit, along the boards and
took a bad penalty yesterday.
Yeah, and he does, but he's a big part of how that defense plays and what's going on back there. And I just think that you've made a lot of valid points, and I hope you're 100%. If Shesterkin is true to form, which he showed some brilliance last night, he showed some confidence last night. He showed that he's coming back to who he can be and who he was for the major part of the year for the New York Rangers. We used to say night after night, Shesterkin always gave him not only a chance to win, but he stole games.
Yep.
And, he's going to have to continue to do that, especially against Carolina, because Carolina is a very complete club. They got goal scoring, like you said. They play a very tenacious game. We talked about it. You said
they try to wear you down. Is what they try to do. They try to wear you down by doing the same thing over and over and over to you. That's how they play.
Yep. So, going to be interesting. A lot of great. All these series are going to really be good. A lot of the best, most of the best teams have moved on now, and we're going to see, some real fun playoff hockey. Let's go, Ray.
Yeah, I'm pretty confident picking them this time.
Good.
I am.
Good. I would love to be wrong, just so everyone knows. I'm a diehard New York Ranger fan. But with that being said, did you answer Barry's questions while I was moping around over here doing stuff?
Yeah, I do see that. He's going to be coming down this area maybe next month. Yeah, he can get in touch with me and all that stuff if I'm around. I might be down by you by then, though.
What do you say? In August.
Next month. No, it says next month.
No, I thought he said here. Weekend 13th of August. 13th and 14th of August.
He's talking about his thing. He's talking about coming down to see me.
Oh. Yeah, I didn't see that one.
Yeah, you can get in touch with me. Well, who knows? I don't know when I'm coming down to see you, though. Maybe it'll be for that 7th game when the Rangers beat Tampa.
I heard that today.
By the way, way to get dressed up for the games. T-shirt. Were you there in a T-shirt and shorts? Like you were working on your car?
What are you talking about?
I saw the pictures in the private box. You had a T-shirt on. It was 3 days old.
Oh, my God. No. I don't know what I was wearing.
You were changing the oil in your car that day.
Oh, this guy. He's got jokes. He thinks he's funny. One of the games I went to, I had no change of clothes. I think I was wearing my gym stuff. Yeah, I think I was wearing my gym stuff to the gym.
What, you doing push-ups in the private box?
But anyway, if the Rangers play Tampa, you have to come here. You have to.
I will.
Okay.
I will.
All right.
I'll wear a sport jacket and a nice pair of slacks though to the game.
No, we're gonna put a Ranger jersey on you or something.
You better.
We'll be in the corporate box. I'm gonna need a little backup. But anyway,
I must break you.
Yeah. So hopefully we don't get too much crap. With that being said, next week depending on what we're looking at.
Listen, I think if we can, we got to do a little bit more frequent here. This is second round stuff now.
Second round stuff.
You know what I mean? You can't wait a week. The Rangers will play almost 4 games by then.
So let's think.
You know what I'm trying to say?
The Rangers start
Wednesday, Friday, Sunday, Tuesday. That's their schedule.
Okay.
Just like it's all up to you, big boy. You're the grand poobah.
Yeah. If the one thing I could print, it would be time. I just don't have a ton of time anymore. Let's see what we can do.
We should do an afternoon show from your office at that.
Yeah, we might have to start doing that.
Although you can't start until after 12 because I'm not up yet.
Yeah, this guy. It's all fun and games, huh?
What do you want?
Well, anyway, we'll have to see what we're gonna do next.
Yeah, I don't want to wait a week in between games while the Rangers are playing the second round. That's all I'm saying. I think it's better to keep updated with every round, basically, of every team. So you figure it out. You let me know, and we'll go from there.
All right. Other than that, I mean, let me think
It
here.
starts tomorrow, folks. Here we go again.
Before we hang out, shut them down. There it is, Lord Stanley. Chris.
I think I see my name. No.
Yeah, it's in real fine print on that one.
Listen, there's a lot of guys well deserving. There's a lot of guys that rode the coattails to history.
Yeah, no kidding, man. No kidding.
They were lucky to get there.
Yep, no kidding. With that being said, I can't really think of anything else other than, I still want to concentrate on a few of the things, the topics that we spoke about, because I think with the officiating, I think it's huge. And I think what you said, I really want the listeners to kind of hear that again.
Yeah, make sure that we post something and we say that in the title. Like, hey, watch this. People that didn't watch the show live. I know as a player that I kind of knew what I was getting into in every game. Like who's the best player? Who can do this with this kind of move? Who can do that with that kind of move? Also, back in my days, who keep your head on a turret because you don't know who's going to end your career that night. That kind of stuff. But today, I'd have to worry about, honestly, like what kind of officiating am I getting into here? I hate to say it. I'm not to paint everybody with a black brush here, but facts are facts. They show it. It shows every night in the games how some of these officials, what their tendencies are. So,
yeah, that's important.
Actually, Barry, I'm letting you know now. In June, I'm going to see Tom Kiefer, singer from Cinderella, L.A. Guns, who I really, really love, and one of the best names for a band ever, Faster Pussycat.
Barry, I will definitely consider August.
And if he comes up, he can pick me up from New York, and I'll come with him.
I'll pick you up on the way, and then Chris is going to come down here.
Just make sure when you pick me up, it's a large vehicle, not some mini vehicle for you small guys. Okay?
Yeah. I'll pick you up in a Mini Cooper. How's that?
Probably has more room than the big ones these days.
It does. They're pretty roomy. I'll pick you up in a BMW. I'll pick you up in a BMW.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll try to figure out a schedule this week. If we can get in and out, that'd be great. I don't know what I'm looking at right now, so I can't make any promises. But
you might have to take a break on a Friday one of these days too, and have the show instead of having your little fun that you usually have on the weekend.
Well, listen, Friday get furniture being delivered, so I don't know. We'll see how Friday goes.
That would be awesome. Have the furniture delivered while you're doing the show, so I can see them all walking in the background, and you pointing out like you're on a home and garden show over here.
Chris, before we go,
Yeah,
grab the Whaler bobblehead behind you.
it's not a bobblehead.
Oh, it's not.
It's a statue.
Chris
It's a
Kotsopoulos.
statue.
Didn't they spell your name wrong or something? What
Yes,
they
they
do?
did. Look at that.
I love it.
This was in the store back then in the mall in Hartford, and they spelt it wrong.
Kotsopoulos.
We used to have two of these, but my son Cody broke one.
You wish you were that handsome, huh?
Listen, you take a good look at yourself. You're going to look like a mini-me one day. There you go, the big K.
The big K. It looks on from here. Is it lit up?
Of course it is. Come on, look.
Big gold K. All right, listen.
One more for you.
I've had enough fooling around.
Boy, do we need this guy back.
Oh dear God! Look at this guy. He's reaching tonight. Woo!
We need this guy back.
Plastic cans, and you never know what you're gonna get around here.
Sorry, folks, if you don't like that, kiss my ass.
Amen, man. I tell you, if Chris and I could run the country in hockey, the world would be a better place, man.
It would be.
I know.
It would be.
At least for the people who agree with us. Anyway, with that being said, thank you for joining. He's over here. That's Chris Kotsopoulos from Paulie D. Check out the Facebook page, the Instigators Hockey Show. Make sure you join the group. Subscribe to the YouTube page.
Yes.
We do have a lot of things that we're going to fix. As soon as Beth gets better and we're gonna really put together probably one of the best podcasts you've ever seen. We're gonna incorporate videos soon. We're gonna do a lot of really cool things.
And we are gonna get T-shirts, trust me.
And we're gonna have T-shirts.
We keep talking about it, but
and beer mugs. Come on, that's so cool. I love this beer mug. It's nothing to do with my name being on it, but all right. Enough of the shenanigans. I gotta go to bed. You people keep me up too late. Let's go, Rangers. Please don't. I hope to God that the officiating can just relax now, and we're in the second round, and let the teams decipher who's going to win.
Let's go Washington. Oh, sorry, Washington's out.
Yeah, well, Crosby's a bitch. So with that being said,
3 Stanley Cups to 1, baby. 3.
Sydney's a crybaby. All right, Barry, we'll talk soon. Wait.
The coach killer.
Listen, before I hang up, before we go, what was I supposed to do? Chris, you don't help me.
Well, you got to get the T-shirt. There it is.
I got to get Barry's T-shirt. So before I even end the broadcast, I'm going to get the T-shirt and bring it downstairs.
Hurry up, Speedy Gonzalez. Barry, you're waiting for that T-shirt. You're going to be waiting as long as Ovechkin takes to win another Stanley Cup. Seriously, Barry. Paulie. Oh, I hear something. Where'd you put that thing, Paul? Are you hiding it somewhere?
Yeah. Barry, I swear I got your shirt, man.
Woo!
Here it is, buddy. Here it is.
Out.
All right. I'm going to put it by the door so I don't forget it this time.
Hey, you know what, Paulie?
Yeah.
We should get another one. And I'll sign it and I'll send it to your boy Ovechkin.
All right. Enough shenanigans.
Eat shit. Your best friend, Kotsy.
Let's go, Rangers. Hey,
yeah.
Thanks for tuning in.
Let's do it. Come here, boss. Say hello to Paulie. Come here, boss. Come. You see boss down here? Come here. Oh, he just bolted on you.
Barry, you saw your shirt, right? I promise it's coming to you. I promise, Bear. I'm working on it, buddy. All right. Well, I'm going to bed because
Barry, I promise you, he won't work on it when he's changing the oil too. Either you're wearing it.
oh, jeez, this guy, he thinks he's funny today. All right, I'm leaving.
Because we waited an extra week. I had a lot of ammunition.
I know. Well, I'm sorry. I apologize. I attended Game 6 for Tampa, Toronto, which was a fun game to watch.
You see that? Barry wants you to sign it too.
Yeah, I'll sign it back.
Remember, PAUL.
Oh boy, comedian tonight, huh? See what happens? You put a couple black and tans in this guy.
Oh God, are you kidding? I'm just getting warmed up.
I know. Listen, I didn't get kicked out.
When I come down there, your fridge better be half full of beer.
Oh yeah. Listen, I didn't get kicked out of Mountain Terrace. I gotta go. Good night, everybody. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel.
You're putting up with us.
And the Instigators Hockey Show on Facebook. The Instigators Hockey Show, just like this, right on Facebook.
That's why we are the Instigators, because we instigate stuff.
Yes. Good night. Peace. And can't wait for Donald Trump.